I think it had the pomp and ceremony, but I don't think it had the substance that's going to address this generational issue.
And David Ignatius, I'm going to ask you to take it to Andrea Mitchell, but before you do that, there are questions surrounding President Trump, obvious that we've been covering extensively this morning, and Benjamin Netanyahu has questions surrounding him as well, some scandal.
So Benjamin Netanyahu has for months been facing Israeli legal investigations into various questions of corruption, potential corruption, some involving big military contracts that his lawyer was said to have been involved in. Those have not been resolved, but for the last 6 months or so, there's been a cloud over Netanyahu. It doesn't seem to be affecting him in this visit. He is surrounded by political enemies back home. I should just ask Andrea, who's covered this question of Middle East peace for so long, knows it so well. Andrea, do you think that we're entering a stage now in which President Trump and Jared Kushner, his senior advisor, are so committed to trying to do something that they'll begin to try to put pressure on Israel to make concessions? They'll look for significant deliverables that they can offer the Palestinians to say, this is real. We're serious about peace here.
It remains to be seen. There was some movement at the cabinet meeting yesterday here where Netanyahu actually offered some economic aid to Palestinians, which he had not done and which was opposed by some of his ministers, some of the hard right ministers in the cabinet. And that was to try to sweeten the pot a little bit, to smooth the way. But it's hard to imagine Jared Kushner coming from a family and a background, and David Friedman, the ambassador here, who are so committed to expanding U.S. settlements, hard to imagine them requiring or pressing Netanyahu for those kinds of major concessions. The issues here are well known. The solution has been apparent to people in every administration, from Clinton to Bush to Obama. Something has to be decided in Jerusalem to divide this city, divide the holy sites, perhaps vertically, if not horizontally, some kind of solution there. There has to be some agreement around the settlements. The land is being chopped up in the West Bank into teeny parcels and divided so there's no continuity, no contiguous land mass. So that has to be agreed on according to some borders, some definition. And unless Netanyahu is willing to make those kinds of major concessions, I don't see this happening.
Right. Katie.
Richard, you know, when you talk to the White House, they seem to think the way to get to this Middle East peace plan now is not to get bogged down in all of those details of final status and Jerusalem, etc., but just to rely on the sheer force of President Trump's ability to foster good relations with both sides, and that, they seem to believe, combined with Sunni states working for the moment with Israel in order to counter Iran, they think that's what's going to do this. Are they right?
The short answer is no. Good luck on that. Look, for any agreement to be ripe for resolution, you need leaders on all sides who are both willing and able to make big compromises for peace. That is simply absent from the contemporary Israeli-Palestinian issue. And on neither side, you have leaders who are both willing and able to do what is necessary. So this will be an awful lot of calories. It'll be frustrating. In the meantime, I actually think we should be working with Israel to rebuild this relationship, to deal with things like potential instability in Jordan, what's going on in Syria, the possibility of another war with Lebanon. But all this work on getting this big deal, I think at the end of the day, is going to come up empty.
All right. We are looking right now at President Rivlin, Mika, and Donald Trump in Jerusalem.
Yep, they're about to make remarks. President Rivlin appears to be going first.
And we will stay here, and when Donald Trump begins speaking, we will jump in and see what he has to say. While we are watching this, Jeremy, some skepticism around the table about the possibility of bringing a peace deal to the Middle East by doing it one country at a time. What do you think?
Yeah, Joe, I think the big dynamic in the region and the big message from visits to Riyadh and Jerusalem is it's about Iran. It's a pivot away from Iran. It's supporting the Sunni Gulf countries. By the way, we're going to have to figure out how far to go there, because what they really want to do is develop a nuclear weapon.
And by the way, Ayman said the same thing that I heard yesterday from some leaders there, that it was a home run and a reset. But for viewers to understand, this is really all about one issue. Barack Obama was obsessed from the time he started his campaign on striking a deal with Iran. The Sunni leaders were threatened from day one.
That's right. And so notwithstanding anything he said about ISIS or extremism, that's really mood music. That was really a continuity message. That was not groundbreaking. What was really different was the messaging when the lights went off, the doors closed, about Iran basically saying, we'll have your back, we'll provide you capabilities, weapons, materiel, we'll have our forces in the region, and we will deter Iran. I think it's also interesting to note, though, that's probably the biggest discussion point in Israel as well. This Palestinian peace process stuff really requires a partner on the other side from Abbas. I don't think Bibi Netanyahu thinks he has it. The messaging in Israel, from my book, should have been, it's about Iran celebrating Jerusalem's 50 years of unification. We got your back. And then third, we will have confidence building with the Palestinians. I think leading with the peace process is a mistake.
Mm-hmm. But Nihad, as David has said, it was pretty simple, and it's what I heard from some leaders yesterday. It was, if you boil it down, a fairly simple speech. We are not going to try to make any breakthroughs with our enemies. We are going to spend the next 4 years embracing our friends.
Well, that helps, but also I think the complications of the issues need to be paid attention to. The two previous administrations did not have any major breakthrough except the Iran deal. I believe the peace in the Middle East is very, very important. All leaders, whether Sunni, Shia, individuals, people in governments, will always tell you that the peace in the Holy Land is the cornerstone. If you avoid it, if you delay it, if you postpone it, it will come back to you. So people on the ground will tell you that peace between the Palestinians and the Israelis ought to be dealt constructively. The U.S. has a lot of assets to leverage on both sides, but I disagree with you. I think Israel can do a lot of more concessions than the Palestinians. The Palestinians are at the receiving hand. They are the occupied people, and there's a lot of more work to do from the U.S. to leverage these relations.
Jeremy, I'll let you respond to that, but there is the kind of overriding point here as we watch these live events play out, that Israel is none too happy with the president for releasing secrets
to the Russians,
revealing
a source.
So that is happening as we speak now. That is sort of something that is the unspoken elephant in the room.
Any impact?
Yeah, well, look, I think the leaders of the Mossad, the Shin Bet, the ISNU, the Israeli Signals Intelligence Agency, are going to be very concerned about whether they can trust this administration, this team, with their secrets.
And President Trump is speaking now, so let's listen in.
The homeland of the Jewish people, I am awed by the beauty and majesty of this sacred and very holy land. President Rivlin, Mrs. Rivlin, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for opening your wonderful home and welcoming Melania and myself to your amazing country. And that's what it is. It is an amazing country. What you've done is perhaps has virtually never been done before. On my first trip overseas, I've come to this ancient land to reaffirm the enduring friendship between the United States and the State of Israel. And it will always be enduring. And that's number one to me. We are not only longtime friends, we are great allies and partners. We stand together always. This moment in history calls for us to strengthen our cooperation as both Israel and America face common threats from ISIS and other terrorist groups to countries like Iran that sponsor terrorism and fund and foment terrible violence, not only here, but all over the world. Together we can work to end the scourge of violence that has taken so many lives here in Israel and around the world. Most importantly, the United States and Israel can declare with one voice that Iran must never be allowed to possess a nuclear weapon, never, ever, and must cease its deadly funding, training, and equipping of terrorists and militias. And it must cease immediately. On those issues, there is a strong consensus among the nations of the world, including many in the Muslim world. I was deeply encouraged by my conversations with Muslim world leaders in Saudi Arabia, including King Salman, who I spoke to at great length. King Salman feels very strongly, and I can tell you would love to see peace between Israel and the Palestinians. Many expressed their resolve to help end terrorism and the spread of radicalization. Many Muslim nations have already taken steps to begin following through on this commitment. There is a growing realization among your Arab neighbors that they have common cause with you in the threat posed by Iran, and it is indeed a threat. There's no question about that. I thank both you and Prime Minister Netanyahu for your commitment to achieving peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians. I also look forward to discussing the peace process with Palestinian President Abbas. Young Israeli and Palestinian children deserve to grow up in safety and to follow their dreams free from the violence that has destroyed